My study process really consisted of studying every day. I definitely would recommend, like, even if it's in little chunks, to do it so that you establish a frame of studying.
Yeah,
Most of the time it was in the evenings, but then I would make sure that I got a certain amount of studying done, and I would allocate, that week what needed to be reviewed, what documents that I needed to look at in order to make sure that I got through the study material, and with enough time for me to be then start on whatever my next thing was. Then be able to kind of pinpoint areas that I was not strong in after taking practice exams, which I would start towards, after I'd been studying for a couple weeks, I would then start taking practice exams to see how familiar I am with the material that I'm studying. Made sure that I was retaining the information and understanding what I was doing. My tests, I usually took about 2 to 3 months to be able to take each exam. It's a longer time frame. There's no rush, especially when you have the chance of failing. But then at that point, I kind of reestablished myself. And then I took all 7 of the exams in sequence, in the order that I had established, and I didn't fail again. 7 passes.
You understood what you
I understand what I needed to do and what worked for me in my studying, and me being able to break off only the amount that I needed at that point, and kind of hone in on just each exam. Don't think about all of your exams, just the one that you're currently studying for, to be able to retain that information to be able to pass the exam. I took 4 exams, then I had my son. Then I took 2 more and I had my daughter.
Oh my goodness.
And then I took the last one and passed it. It was a lot of kind of intense studying, but I always made sure that after I did an exam, I took a little bit of a break. I didn't immediately jump back in, even if it was just a week or 2, just to not overload myself, and then move on to the next one. So life happens. That's why I'm always telling people, go get your license, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know, where you're going to be, what you're going to be doing, what life is going to throw at you, where it makes it even more increasingly difficult for you to get your license. So, I'm kind of glad that I had even started the process before starting a family, even though we hadn't necessarily planned it out that way.
Right.
But then at least I had 4 done before I had my first kid, and rather than none, then it would have had to take everything from there. You don't need that negativity. So sometimes that will affect your mood and the way that you look at the test and how you approach it by what other people are saying about it, even though they might have had difficulties in their studying or them going after the test, which is very different than your own. Don't keep negativity around you when it comes to the exam, or other people test differently, they take information differently, they study differently.
Right.
So you kind of have to get to a certain place where you understand your own study style and what works for you. Sometimes it takes the first exams to get through, for you to understand what works and what doesn't work. Once you finish your working experience, if it's prior to you finishing your exams, still transmit that to the state, so that they have all of that information already. Once you do that, then all they're going to do is send you a letter and say, okay, you've done this, we still need for you to pass your exams, which you already know. I took my exam one day. A week later, I got my pass. 2 days later, I got my license number, and 2 days later after that, I already had my certificate. They had gone through my background. They knew my education. They knew my work experience was done. My record was up to date. Everything was paid for. So they had nothing to do but just see that NCARB said you passed all of your exams.
And then you just got everything.
And then everything else went through. If you're intent on getting your license, then just get it. If your job's not supporting you in doing your exams, you probably and I'm not they have to bend over backwards, but they shouldn't be putting roadblocks up for you not to do your exam. Going through the study process, and you actually start to kind of get in the details of learning some things where it's you have holes of information where you really didn't know much about it, but then in the process of studying, you actually learned about those things. The boss that I had originally when I was an intern, she was like, you getting your license is not the do-all, end-all. It's just kind of a step for you to move and progress forward. Is to get out there and actually experience various different things, and I think going to the field is probably one of the most important things you can do. to see what's being built, see what you're drawing,
Right.
you know, and see problems. Like getting problems in the field from contractors is probably the best thing for an architect to be able to then see how we're gonna fix it. You know, why is this like this? Why we shouldn't do this? Why we need to change this detail so that it works better in the field. Even though I kind of was kicking and screaming as I went into that firm for restoration, I did learn a lot because now it kind of helps me in a lot of different things. Every building is going to need restoration because you have to maintain it. Having that information was kind of invaluable. You make your school what it is.
Yeah.
And you know, nowadays with how expensive school is,
Right.
you can't think that you got to go to an Ivy League school
Oh no.
and rack up all of these student loans, and
Right.
then where are you at? You're at the same level as someone else that has a small percentage of what you paid, and it doesn't make any sense. Like unless you specifically have some specific reason to go to a school that has some specific degree or specialty or faculty or something like
And
that.
you're not learning any more in architecture if you go to Yale.
I'll take a Yale degree though.
Yeah.
I think it comes back to economic opportunity. Like if you shouldn't desperately go into debt over
That's right.
schooling.